external affairs, restraining orders, guns, China. And here's how I'll throw it to you, Attorney Kamenar. Enter the big guy. Who is the big guy in terms of Hunter Biden?
Right. The big guy is his father, Joe Biden, and we got that information from Hunter Biden's laptop. This is the laptop that was discovered back in 2020, and which during the debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump for the 2020 election, when this information was coming out, Joe Biden, his first big lie of his candidacy was saying, "Oh, that laptop is Russian disinformation. That's not legitimate in my son's laptop." Well, and then the media covered that up. So the big guy was implicated very much on the laptop, meaning there was emails saying how Hunter Biden was getting lots of money from these foreign sources, and he told his business partners that we have to keep 10% for the big guy. So that's where the big guy comes in, and that's why it's no surprise that Joe Biden was giving a pardon to his son.
Yeah. Well, family looks after family, don't they? So, from what all, this might sound like a simplistic question, but how extensive is this pardon? I mean, is Hunter Biden exonerated from, everything of which he has been accused in recent years? And will he face any prosecutions moving forward?
That's a good question. This pardon was an amazing pardon because it's not only pardoning for his two criminal violations, the gun charge here in Delaware and the tax charges in California, for which he pled guilty. So not only did Joe Biden pardon his son for those two crimes, but he gave him what's called a blanket pardon for any and all crimes that he may have committed from January 1, 2014 until December 1, 2024. So that's 10 years, 11 months, about 2 years, 11 years worth of crimes that he may have committed. So he's off the hook on all of that, and there were a lot of things that he could have been charged with if he didn't get the pardon, such as money laundering, getting these millions of dollars that he put through shell companies and distributed to 10 Biden family members over the years, including his uncle Jim Biden, who's Joe Biden's brother, and Joe Biden himself. There's some funny business with money going there. So these money laundering charges were not brought by the prosecutor, nor was the tax violations from 2014 to 2017 involving the money he got from Burisma, which is the Ukrainian oil company. And so Hunter Biden got a break from the get-go by not even being charged with that from the beginning, and just to make sure that doesn't come back to haunt him, this pardon by Joe Biden covers those violations as well. There's also a referral from the House Oversight Committee to the Justice Department last year that both Hunter Biden and Jim Biden lied under oath to the committees and thereby committed perjury. So those but they would be shielded from any charges of perjury under this. That's right. That's Hunter Biden. So that brings me to the next issue. Like, well, wait a minute. How about Jim Biden? How about the other family members? How about Joe Biden himself? So I predict that on the day he leaves office, Joe Biden's going to pardon all his family members, especially his brother, Jim, from any criminal prosecution. And, he may even try to pardon himself. That's never been done before. It's not clear whether under the Constitution a president can constitutionally pardon himself. But now that he's pardoned his son Hunter with this blanket pardon, the new Justice Department under Pam Bondi, the new Attorney General, and all these House committees can bring Hunter Biden before a grand jury, up to Congress, under oath, and grill him about all the shenanigans and monies and so forth going to his dad, and how his dad is basically helping him to curry favor with these foreign interests. And what is that Hunter can't say, wait a minute, I plead the Fifth Amendment. I refuse to answer on the grounds that it might incriminate me. Sorry, Hunter, you can't say that anymore because you got a full pardon from your dad. And therefore, you cannot invoke your Fifth Amendment right not to testify. So this blanket pardon may come back to haunt him. If in fact, President Biden just pardoned him for the 2 crimes only, then Hunter could invoke his First Amendment right if they wanted to get into other things about the money laundering and so forth and so on. Mm-hmm. But now it's open season on having Hunter Biden testify.
Let me ask you this. Is there any way that in pardoning the son, the father incriminates himself? Because a pardon implies admission of guilt, right?
Well, no, yeah, a pardon. To the Hunter, the person being pardoned. It doesn't mean that Joe Biden himself admits that he too committed any crimes. But as I said earlier, that can now be further investigated once the new Justice Department gets into place to see if in fact Joe Biden himself is guilty of some of these money laundering problems and crimes.
Mm-hmm. So what's been like the response of the larger legal community?
Well, even Democrats have said that politically speaking, this was not a good day for the legacy of Joe Biden, because he said, as you said earlier, half a dozen times, promised, I will not pardon my son. So he went back on his word on that, and his reasons for doing that. Now he said, well, what changed? Really nothing changed. I mean, he said that, this was a political prosecution. Well, Hunter Biden and his attorney's been saying that for a year or two, that this whole thing's been a political prosecution. By the way, it was not. But the bottom line is that was the complaint from the very beginning. So, Joe Biden, why are you raising that reason now? It doesn't make any sense. Number two, that reason doesn't hold any water because, as I said, Hunter got a break by not being charged with other crimes for Foreign Agents Registration Act, et cetera, money laundering. So it wasn't a selective prosecution. And then, you have Joe Biden also said in his statement yesterday, in that tax case, that was just my son. He paid his taxes late, but he paid it all back. So, what's the big deal? Hello, it wasn't just a matter of him not paying the taxes, some $1.2 million late. He evaded those taxes by falsely taking business deductions that were false and illegal. For
Hey,
example,
Paul, forgive me. Hold that thought. We've got to take a break here. Alex McFarland, along with attorney Paul Kamenar of the National Legal and Policy Center, their website, nlpc.org, nlpc.org. More about Hunter Biden's pardon and more going on after this break. Stay tuned.
A Discipleship Minute with Joseph Parker.
In Exodus 1 is a wonderful story of two little midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, who Pharaoh told them, kill the baby boys when they're born. And they had it in their heart. They just knew this is wrong. And their perspective was, we're not going to do this because this is against God's will. And they refused to do it. What wonderful role models Shiphrah and Puah are, not only for pastors, but for every believer in every context, because it is always going to take courage to really follow Jesus accurately. And it's one of those things where I believe absolutely every believer should diligently say, Lord, show me what you want me to do to help end the slaughter of children in our country. And I believe God has something for every believer to do to help. The devil hates grown folks, and he hates children. The devil can't stand children, and he loves to abort them. So it's important for us to understand this is serious business.
Founding values and said no to abortion, no to biological men participating in women's sports and sharing locker room facilities. The party that won said no to those extreme views on the transgender issue, including government-sponsored transgender-affirming surgery for inmates, and no to an open border that's been the gateway to anyone or anything coming into America, including violent criminals, the importation of drugs, human trafficking, and more. The party that won said yes to deportation of illegal aliens, beginning with those who have criminal records. Friends, this election forced Americans to take a position for or against Judeo-Christian values and constitutional principles. I'm Rick Scarborough, and that's my take.
So right now may be the perfect time for you to rethink how you pay for health care. And here's why. This time of year is decision time for a lot of people, but it's also when you can join Medi-Share and save even more than usual. For many families, joining Medi-Share means saving about $500 a month, which is a game changer for a lot of people, obviously. But what's more, Medi-Share members like it a lot. Their satisfaction rate is 98%. Imagine that. And Medi-Share is a proven thing, too, for over 30 years. It's a Christian community of hundreds of thousands of people now. And here's the thing. If you join before December 15th and you mention the promo code SHARE, they'll waive your application fee, so you save even more right off the bat. I'll give you the number here in a second, but just call and you'll get a price within 2 minutes. And again, the deadline is December 15th, so call now. You'll save even more. Here's the number. 833-44-BIBLE. That's 833-44-BIBLE. 833-44-BIBLE.
Shining light into the darkness. This is the Hamilton Corner on American Family Radio.
Well, he has spoken for the American Bar Association. He's been a guest on Fox News with Tucker Carlson, Good Morning America, Newsmax. Very, very impressive resume. His name is Paul Kamenar. He's the NLPC Council, the National Legal and Policy Center. And hey, I want to say thank you not only for being with us today, and many times you've given your time to be on various programs with us, and I appreciate that, Attorney Kamenar. But I just appreciate your service to our nation. You worked alongside people like Barry Goldwater. If we could digress a moment for the news of the day, just over the decades, have you seen Washington change, if at all? Maybe it hasn't changed, but what's the Washington of 2024? How is that different from Washington 3 or 4 decades ago?
That's a good question. I mean, we've had scandals in the past with graft and corruption, with Watergate, with an app scam, and others like that. But what's, I think, a different basically atmosphere and so forth in terms of where we are now is that there's been this weaponization of the Justice Department in the last few years during going after Donald Trump and Republicans and going after conservatives. You had the Merrick Garland Justice Department, FBI going after parents at school board meetings, objecting to some of the curriculum that they're feeding our youth, and calling these people domestic terrorists. Going after enrichment here, Catholics who also were complaining about some of this stuff, and so you see the weaponization of the Justice Department along those kinds of lines. It used to be basically a fair Justice Department where they would call the balls and strikes evenly, and also the political atmosphere used to be cooperative under Ronald Reagan. I remember well him working with Speaker of the House Tip O'Neill, the liberal Democrat. They would have their differences, but at the end of the day, they could sit down and have a beer and be cordial with one another and get things done. There were a lot of good things back in those days that were done in terms of a lot of different policies that affect both sides, and they were able to work together. Now the environment is very polarized, and it's too bad to see that happen. And you have this fighting going on, and the American people are the ones that are the victims of all that, because Washington is kind of stuck here in terms of getting things done for the American people. So that's basically the difference that I've seen over the years.
Yeah, and not a lot of trust, even
Right.
within like the Republican Party.
All right.
Yeah. So before the break, you were talking about the response of the larger legal community over this. Let me ask you this, because I know, we hear from people. I think there's kind of a resignation or just this assumption among the American people that if you're powerful enough, if you've got enough money, if you're famous enough, you're untouchable. They're a two-tier. They're us mere mortals that have to live legally, not have to, it's a privilege to live legally and forthrightly. And then there are the Hunter Bidens of the world that can just live a life like a movie script in a crime drama and get away unscathed. Speak to the American people that they just feel like we're a country where justice doesn't get served anymore.
Well, yeah, that's right. But then you see, like, for example, the prosecution against Donald Trump. He's wealthy and well known, et cetera, but that didn't help him because he espouses conservative views and policies, and so they went after him after he announced he wanted to run for president in 2024 with these bogus charges, and now the cases are being dismissed here in D.C. and in Florida because Jack Smith is winding down the prosecution, and he cannot, under DOJ law, continue prosecuting a sitting president, which Trump will be. So he went to the two courts and said, hey, look, I can't go after Trump anymore once he's president, so let me have these cases dismissed. And he did something, what he called dismiss the cases without prejudice. That's a legal term, meaning he can bring them back again. But that's not going to happen because once President Trump takes office and Pam Bondi becomes Attorney General, she'll file motions to dismiss these cases with prejudice, meaning they can never be brought again, even when Trump gets out of office. So those cases are going away very soon here, and the other cases are lingering, both in the New York case and the Georgia case, but those I think will be going away. So yeah, there is this two-system tier of justice Yeah, if you're rich and famous on the liberal side, like the Hunter Bidens of the world and so forth, you might get a break. But eventually, I think there'll be a course correction here with the new administration, where there'll be more of a fair administration of justice by the Justice Department and the FBI.
Is it fair to say, and I know this is counterfactual, but I don't know, it's fun to think about, or interesting to think about, had Trump not run for president, if he had just ridden off into the sunset and disappeared, all of those 34 charges probably would never have come about, would they?
Oh, absolutely not. None of those 34 charges, nor the Jack Smith and all of that. None of those cases would have come about, because none of them started until President Trump announced that he wanted to run for re-election. So, it doesn't take a genius to put two and two together to figure out what was motivating those prosecutions. So, but thank God he won.
Amen.
If he had
Amen.
lost, oh my God, they would try to put a nail in his coffin. I think eventually he would have be vindicated in the Supreme Court just on the merits of these cases. But it would just sap the energy of the American people. It just cause more of a political division than what we have right now.
Yeah. Sadly, we're almost out of time. I want to give you a minute to wrap up. I appreciate it very much, not only your analysis today, Attorney Kamenar, but just your work on behalf of ethics in Washington. Ethics and Washington, two words that you don't often hear in the same sentence. But any final thoughts?
Well, I think that we need to look forward to the new administration. There's going to be a battle with confirmation of some of the nominees that President Trump has nominated. So I think most of them will be confirmed. There may be some that will have trouble, may have to have a recess appointment, but I think they're going to come in and sort of clean house and get rid of some of the deep state here, and hopefully we'll have a new day of accountability and some prosperity with the economy, and also with peace in terms of these other conflicts that are going on around the world. So hopefully the next 4 years will be renaissance for the American dream.
Indeed, I concur. Thank you so much, Paul Kamenar.
Sure.
We're going to change gears here for a second. Alex McFarland on the American Family Radio Network. I'm sitting in for attorney, pastor, broadcaster Abe Hamilton III. And by the way, my own website is alexmcfarland.com, and my books and my broadcasting and my tour schedule and speaking is up there. And I've got a number of things in 2025 that I hope you'll check out if you look at my calendar there on alexmcfarland.com. Well, we're going to change gears. I'm very, very excited to speak with Christian Briggs, who's an economic expert, and much has been said about the Trump economic policy. And let me just say this, since November 5th, the markets have rallied. Gas prices, it was very interesting. I was on the road literally the day after the election, and I noticed on several gas stations changing the sign. The price of gas went down within days of the election, went down some 10 cents per gallon in some parts of the country, as Trump had been on the road saying, drill, baby, drill. For a lot of measurements, certainly economics among them, the looming Trump presidency seems to bode well. But we're going to get some insight from Christian Briggs. Sir, thank you for holding. Thanks for being with us today, and we look forward to hearing your insights.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be on your program.
Well, thank you. Before we get into some news and analysis and prognostication, tell us about yourself. Give us your website and where people can follow the work that you do, Mr. Briggs.
Well, great, thank you. So we're one of the largest North American precious metal dealers. We wholesale market gold, silver, select rare coins. Website is B as in Bravo, MC, BMC, HAM, BMCham.com.
Mm-hmm.
But we're wholesalers to the retail public, precious metals and rare coins, one of the largest in North America, and we've been doing it for about 40 years now.
Wow. I've got an article from the Wall Street Journal called The Dwindling Wealth of America. And talk to us about just, in your opinion, the financial stability of the average American family.
Well, that's a great question. Okay, let's talk about stability. Let me back up a couple years, or at least 2 terms prior. When Donald Trump was running for president in 2016 and ultimately won, we were at about a 52% labor force that did participate. In other words, they may have worked, but they didn't pay taxes, or they lived on some entitlements. There was some means of which they got by, but they weren't paying into the system.
Mm-hmm.
And when he took office, he dropped that down to 47%, which means he lifted so many people from the lower middle class, all the way up to upper middle class. He was one of the biggest proponents of offering educational or vocational training to all the different types of African-American, Latinos, or just anybody who wanted it. So he was one of the greatest presidents in history to create the lift, which is going to go back to your original question here in a second. Now, when you look today, under the Joe Biden administration, that 47 jumped up to 62. In fact, we've now gone up to close to 80, if not at 80% of America is living paycheck to paycheck. So what you've got is a dependency culture, right? So when the Democrats always, and I say this always, it is always, tax and spend, raise the taxes, spend the extra money, create a dependency that underlines the fabric of America. So instead of going from prosperity of accomplishment, it's basically existing of dependency by the federal government. So if for example, you and I were creating a dependency state, then we knew that if we can get more people taking a handout from us, the likelihood of those people paying or staying loyally in a loyalty way because the money would keep us in office. They would vote us back in office. So the whole motivation of the Democratic, let's go back to Biden administration, was to really inflict as much pain. You'd almost have to think that way, because if they were to really say this one more time, that the inflation was transitory, it'll never give about 5%. I think that's what Janet Yellen said and Powell both said in congressional testimony. It's transitory. It's never going to get above 5%. It's not going to hurt the American public, and we've got it under control, which turned out to be completely wrong. So now you see their motivation. You see them creating a situation where the more people that are dependent upon the Democratic Party, the more likely they're going to stay in power. And thus, that's the reason why the numbers are the worst in history. I mean, quite honestly, Donald Trump was one of the most favorable presidents in his first term to increase the standard of living for every single person, lower the taxes, bring manufacturing back to America, and within about 100 executive orders, Biden took all that away and made it worse.
Wow. And you know, the thing is, I mean, isn't it fair to say that both conservative and liberal, and by liberal Democrat, I mean liberal socialist, big government Marxist, I mean, they have a business plan. And like you say, the Democrat promised the world, drill it into the electorate that you can't make it without me. I'm the one that cares about you. For your own survival, you must vote Democrat. But it's a tax and spend, entitlement, dependency class that, I mean, that's their business model, isn't it?
It's 100% their business model, and the way you outlined it was perfect. It is all about creating a state of euphoria that excites the base, that higher taxes only affects the top 5 or 10% of America. Okay, that's what they tell you. And 2, that equality, okay, the Great Reset is about resetting the wealth inequality. That's the quality of life.
Hey, hold that thought for a minute. We've got a break. Christian Briggs, Hard Asset Management, the economy, and your future. Stay tuned. We'll talk more about this after this brief break on the American Family Radio Network. Don't go away.
The American Family Association's mission is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. Our goal is to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training or cultural transformation. AFA believes that all men and women, whether in private or public, should be free to exercise their faith without hindrance from the government.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association.
Jerusalem, oh Jerusalem, how many times I would have taken you under my wings. They had everything that was necessary for them to know Jesus and follow him, and they went their way.
I think for nations, for individuals, there is a day that you have to make the decision to respond to the Lord, and it might be that the door of opportunity after that shuts.
Exploring the Word, weekdays, 3 p.m. Central on AFR.
The Pilgrims. This is David Wheaton, host of The Christian Worldview. A small group of Christians known as the Pilgrims are widely considered, quote, for the glory of God and the advancement of the Christian faith. Their biblical beliefs in personal and civic life led directly to the principles of the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. This year is the 400th anniversary of the Pilgrims' first Thanksgiving, when they thank God for a bountiful harvest after a brutal first winter. The Bible says, "In everything give thanks, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." Hear an interview with the Pilgrims at thechristianworldview.org and tune in this weekend for more.
Listen to the Christian Worldview with David Wheaton, Saturday mornings at 8 Central on American Family Radio. Hey, Days of Hope family. As God continues to expand this ministry, we cherish your involvement, whether it's through praying, volunteering, or donating. We know it can be hard to stay up to date on all that God is doing through 8 Days of Hope, and we'd hate for you to miss an opportunity to get involved. Today, we invite you to find us on social media to see regular updates on how we are loving and serving those in need across the country through our Rebuilding Rapid Response Safe House and Mass Feeding Ministries. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music at 8 Days of Hope. That's EIGHT, Days of Hope. If you aren't on social media, we invite you to join our text alerts. Right now, you can text the word HOPE to 86373, and you'll be notified anytime we deploy or have exciting news to share. It's that simple. Text HOPE, that's HOPE, to 86373. We can't wait to share updates with you soon. When you hear this
This is American Family News.
you know what follows is the truth. Your news from a Christian perspective.
Hundreds of teachers are going to have to walk into that school building, and they are forced to swallow political ideology that in many cases violates their very faith and conscience.
If you miss it at the top of the hour, American Family News podcasts are available at afn.net, and sign up for our daily news brief at afn.net.
The Hamilton Quarter podcast and 1-minute commentaries are available at afr.net. Back to the Hamilton Quarter on American Family Radio.
Welcome back to the program. Alex McFarland here, sitting in for attorney Abe Hamilton III. We're talking with Christian Briggs. His website, BMCHAM, like BMCHam.com. And hey, I want to say I'm getting an education, Mr. Briggs, just reading your website here. It's a great website, and moves me to believe I need to be investing in gold and precious metals.
Well, it's interesting how I've always told this to people, and I've not been a real aggressive on it until the last couple of years, is that gold is a hedge. We don't know what's going to happen 5 or 10 years from now. Gold always is favorable prior to a catastrophic event. It's one of the few things in the world that is a precursor. In other words, you can determine things are going to start to become